Hey everybody, Captain Algebra here, and I'm here with 4 of my favorite YouTubers, and we're here to bring you our top 10 favorite stage music songs on the SNES. Find out what they are after the break. Alright, so as you can see, we got the ReNesance, Die Hard Gamer Bros, Do You Nerd, and Nefarious Wes. I want to thank Jay the NES Addict. He did a top 10 NES song video with a couple of my favorite YouTubers as well, and I was like, ooh, this is really cool. So I immediately thought, I gotta go with Super Nintendo. It's my favorite console of all time. The music is fantastic. So without further ado, let's get started, and I'll hand it off to ReNesance.
Thank you so much, Captain. Hello folks, I'm Tim from the ReNesance, and the first choice of Super Nintendo music that I'd like to share with you comes from the game Demon's Crest. After the game throws a boss fight at you to start things off, you find yourself side-scrolling your way through the first area, and it's this music that I'd like to focus on. What made it stick with me from the very first time I heard it was how unexpectedly beautiful it was. One might expect the composers of a game involving demons, ghosts, ghouls, and the like to create a soundtrack filled with dissonant chords and spooky volume jumps. But instead, they very wisely chose to accompany an already visually gorgeous game with an equally gorgeous and haunting soundtrack. This first stage theme is not only beautiful, but it illustrates a very clever underlying effect of doing such a thing. It seems to create a sense of empathy within the player for this main character. Don't forget, you're now walking in the shoes, well, he doesn't have any shoes, but walking in the steps of one of the most irritating and hated enemies of the 8-bit era. Perhaps the developers felt that they needed ways to get players to understand the world from which he comes, and to want to help him on this journey. And I believe that creating this soundtrack in the way they did was one way that subtly convinced people to empathize with Firebrand. To understand that this is not just a creepy world crawling with demons and ghosts, but simply the world that this character knows. All of this translates into the player identifying more with the character that they're controlling, which results in their feeling more invested and having a deeper enjoyment of the game. Now for my second choice of Super Nintendo music to share with you, coming from the beloved Super Metroid. Surely, anyone watching this is well aware that Samus's initial descent onto Zebes in Super Metroid is one of the most enveloping and unnerving stage settings in all of video game history. But it is not because of the music. Not yet, at least. The ingenious lack of music, at first, creates an incredibly eerie setting for the player to be thrown into. Traversing through the once treacherous and overwhelmingly alive room of Mother Brain, now dead and vacant, along with minimal low frequencies and sporadic cracks from the above ominous weather, sets up one of my favorite moments in all of retro gaming. For developers to pull off a moment like this, they need a piece of music that is not going to just bluntly scare the player, but something to subtly catch them off guard. And the composers really nail it with this piece. The initial 5 notes kick in, creating a minor feel, while synthesized voices accentuate an already frantic atmosphere. All the while, low-end timpani strikes drive the action and the player's heart rate up to a fever pitch. This first piece of music sets up the entire soundtrack perfectly with its churning tempo and foreboding mood. From the moment I first played through this part, I knew I was in for a very well made and very well thought out game, and I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen next. Well, I hope you enjoyed my choices. Now to see which music was chosen by Die Hard Gamer Bros.
Thanks, ReNesance. In its lifetime, the SNES had lots of incredible games, accompanied with awesome soundtracks. Oh man, there are so many soundtracks that I love, but for this video, there can be only 2. Don't get me wrong, this game has an amazing soundtrack, but the one that sticks out to me the most is stage 3 of the game, with its cool beats and awesome guitar riffs. Every time I play this stage, I get super hyped to beat the snot out of Linda clones, gun turrets, bulldoze a bunch of ravens, and dodge energy rings. And oh, I hate those annoying pillars that stomp on you. No matter how careful I am, they seem to always get me. If you don't have Battletoads Double Dragon for your SNES, I strongly suggest you go out and get a copy. As for my next favorite soundtrack, this is my favorite track of the game. As soon as you enter the Technodrome, you are met with a non-stop barrage of foot soldiers, annoying Mousers, and roadkill Rodneys while making your way to the end of the hall to face Toka and Razer. A great way to start the first part of the stage. This is a definite purchase if you own an SNES. Well, those are my 2 picks for best SNES stage music. Now I hand it over to Do You Nerd.
Hello, nerdlings.
Sup, Captain Nerdlings?
So, Captain Algebra wanted us to join in and talk about some of our favorite songs from the Super Nintendo. What have you got? The Fever theme from Tetris and Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario was my favorite game on the NES. I played it like crazy. I can't remember if we bought it or if we rented it a lot, so when the Super Nintendo one came out, it was a no-brainer that I was just gonna go for that one and loved it. And again, did love it. They carried the theme over, which is awesome. The Fever theme was always my favorite. There was just something that was peppy and upbeat about it.
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah, it gets that blood pumping.
It does, and you're just
to help
you know,
the medicine.
Oh yeah, totally. But it was they cleaned it up. It was crisper. They added little virus like giggly noises in there. You know.
Yes.
So I don't know. It was a no-brainer for me when that came out. That I was like, yeah, duh.
It's very, very catchy, man.
It
that
is.
Music gets into your brain and stays there.
Which didn't help when Brentalfloss made a song out of it. So I actually have words now to go with the Fever theme. What about you? What was your favorite?
Well, for me, I've got to pull something from the Chrono Trigger library, and I'm going to go with the Denendoro Mountain theme. I think they also used it in like the sewer access, but I always equate it to the mountain theme because
Because you don't want to think about a sewer.
Well, that is true. But when you get to that point in the game, you're working on fixing the sword for Frog, Sir Glenn, and once you hit that mountain theme and you see like the crystalline waters flowing down and the beautiful rock formations, and you've got the trees, and then there's the shadows from the trees, and you've got that little Kiwala up on the mountain, like the cliff. And he's saying, you know, mountains are nice. This is alive.
Why does the koala sound southern? Shouldn't he sound Australian?
I don't know. But I always love that music because it's just so peaceful. And so many times, honestly, I would just pull the game up, park my characters right there, and just listen to it while I was doing something else because it was beautiful. And I can't get enough of that music. Anytime you need some soothing music, the Denendoro theme from Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo.
Or if you're needing to do a lot of housework or anything else around the house, plug in the Dr. Mario Fever theme and you can just you get going. You just, you know, just makes you go.
We're on either end of the spectrum.
We are. So you can relax or you can like do stuff really fast because you got a fever.
I think she's got a fever. All right, well, let's turn this over
To Nefarious Wes.
Bye, nerdlings.
Bye-bye, nerdlings!
Thanks a lot, Do You Nerd? Now, I'm a huge shooters fan. That shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. And one of my favorite things about shooters is the soundtrack. A good shooter is always going to have a fantastic soundtrack. Axelay is no exception.
The Super Nintendo isn't exactly known as a powerhouse for shooters, but Konami's Axelay definitely stands out from the rest with its Mode 7 scaling environments, daunting challenge, and the reason that we're here, a killer soundtrack. What a hell of a way to start a game off, as the BGM to Stage 1 begins with a serene intro, before transitioning into a catchy as hell tune, loaded with 16-bit brass instruments and quick tempo percussion. Composed by Taro Kudo, the same guy who had a hand in Castlevania IV's soundtrack, you know you're getting nothing but gold with Axelay's score, and Stage 1 simply epitomizes exactly the type of theme that complements fast-paced shooting action.
So the SNES's library was saturated with role-playing games, so it shouldn't come as a huge shock to see one on this list. One of my all-time favorite soundtracks in a video game ever, Final Fantasy II.
Nobuo Uematsu is a genius, there's no arguing that, so it shouldn't come as much of a surprise to see a Final Fantasy game on this list. Final Fantasy II has my all-time favorite soundtrack within the heralded RPG franchise, so picking just one song from the game was as difficult as escaping a battle when the entire party has been turned into toads. But the song that has been getting stuck in my head randomly, time and time again since 1992, is undoubtedly the battle theme, which also happens to be my favorite battle theme in the entire series. That bass line is sweeter than crack, and the catchy melody that accompanies it only gets me pumped to shred monsters into ribbons. A song that I can easily listen to during my free time, Final Fantasy II's battle theme is simply awesome.
Those are definitely some great tracks. Now back to you, Captain Algebra.
Thanks, Wes. Wow, awesome choices so far. You can just see how good the music was on the Super Nintendo. So my first choice comes from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time.
Sewer surface.
If you've watched my channel for a while, you know how much I love beat 'em ups, and Turtles in Time is one of my favorites. Other than the fantastic gameplay, the music is unbelievable. So good, in fact, Die Hard Gamer Bros also picked a song from this game. I decided to go with Sewer Surfing because it embodies the Turtles perfectly. It's a fast-paced surfing song that really gets the adrenaline pumping as you fight your way through foot soldiers, pizza monsters, and eventually the Rat King. Unfortunately, this is the shortest stage in the game, so the music is short-lived. But even so, it's very memorable and my favorite track in the game, and it'll have you shouting Cowabunga by the end.
And for my second choice, Super Castlevania 4.
Castlevania is a series I didn't get into until the last few years, and Super Castlevania 4 was the first one I played. I posted a picture on my Facebook letting people know that I was finally starting the series, and Nefarious Wes mentioned how good the music was. He wasn't wrong. This entire game is filled with great tracks. But in the end, I had to go with the classic Bloody Tears. When this song hits, you know shit is getting real, and you are getting even closer to Dracula. The song fits the tower perfectly as you make your way up the stairs fighting enemies, platforming over and dodging spinning gears, and eventually fighting a mummy. I love how the song gets deeper and slows down right before it starts all over again. You can't help but get pumped when listening to the song, and it is easily one of my favorites on the SNES.
Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments below if you like these songs, and what are some of the songs that are your favorite on the Super Nintendo. And once again, I want to say thanks to the ReNesance, Die Hard, Do You Nerd, and Nefarious Wes for joining me on this. It was a lot of fun. And until next time, this is Captain Algebra, signing off.